Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use the basic tools of Photoshop. So you're going to learn everything from creating a new project, how to use all of these tools right here on the side, and how to work with layers and grid systems. So when you first open up Photoshop, this is what your dashboard will look like. And these are all of the previous projects that I've worked on. So if you haven't worked on any previous projects, you won't see anything right here. And if you want to create a new project, just click on Create New, or just go to File and click on New. So let's create a new project, and this window will open up right here. So if you're working with photos, there's an option here for photos. So there's different sizes and different templates right here. If you're planning to print out your content, so like a book cover or an A4 document, then there's a few options here for print. If you're doing some illustrations, there's art and illustration. And if you're working with web and mobile design, there's also some templates for that. So here's some website design templates, and there's also some mobile design templates for iPhone, for iPad Pro, and also for Androids. And you can also customize your own templates as well. So let's say you're working with an A4 document. Just click on Print and click on A4, and it automatically picks up the width and the height of an A4 document. So let's say you want to customize this. I just want this to be a square. So I'm just going to type in 297 millimeters by 297 millimeters. And you can also work with different measurements like inches, centimeters, pixels, and all of that. So let's just leave it on millimeters for now. And I'm also going to leave the resolution at 300. So if you actually want to print out your content that you're working on, then you have to leave it at 300. But if you're just working with web and mobile content, then you should leave it at 72, because 300 is too high of a resolution for web and for mobile, and it will take a long time to load up. So now if I just click on Create New, we have our square document right here, and now we can start typing in some content, or we can draw things with the paintbrush tool, and I'll show you how to use all of that right here. So you might not see all of these windows right here on the side. This is just what I've organized my workspace with. So it might look different to you. So if you want to see the same windows right here, like the layers panel, just go to Windows and click on Layers. And right here on the side, I've got the paragraph panel right here. So you can just go to Windows and click on Paragraph, and you'll see this document open up. And you can also pull it to the side, and you can move it to this side if you wanted to, or you can move it into this box if you wanted to. And you can work with all of these different types of windows. So for now, we're just going to work with layers. So if you don't see the layers panel, just go to Windows, click on Layers. And to create a new layer, you just click on this new layer icon right here. So there's two layers now, layer 1 and the background layer. So the background layer is this white space right here. And then a new layer that we created doesn't have any layers right now. So if you click on this little brush icon, and let's go down right here to the color picker tool, and you can choose a random color. So I'm just going to choose a red color, and I'm just going to paint a line over this like this. So you might see a different edge on your paintbrush, like might be like a hard edge, and my one just has a setting that's giving it a soft edge, and I'll show you how to change all of those settings soon. So this is the layer that we created, which is layer 1. So I can just rename this layer by double clicking on this, and I'll just rename this to red line. Now let's create another layer, and I'll rename this to blue line. And let's choose a blue color this time. And I'm going to paint over this red line. So now you can work with these different layers now, so which makes it a lot easier to work with this red line and the blue line. So if I choose the blue line layer and choose the Move tool, I can just move just the blue line. And if I choose the red line layer and choose the Move tool again, I can move just the red line. And if I want to move this red line above the blue line, I just need to drag and drop this red line layer above the blue line. So that's how you work with layers on Photoshop. So now let's delete these layers by just clicking and dragging them into the bin icon right here. And let's create another layer, and I'm going to rename this layer to Brushes. So right here on the brush icon, if you click and hold, there's a few options. There's the brush tool, pencil tool, color replacement tool, and the mixer brusher tool. So depending on what kind of Photoshop that you have, you might see some different options right here. but most Photoshop versions have the brush tool. So choose the brush tool, and right here at the top there's a few brush settings options right here. So you can choose a different size brush. So right now the size of the brush is 193 pixels. So if I increase that, the brush gets bigger. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can also choose the hardness of the brush. So right now the hardness of the brush is at 0%. And if I paint something, you can see it's got a really soft edge. Let's say I make the hardness at 100%. Now it's got a really hard edge. And if I make it medium, it's going to be somewhere in between those two right here. So that's how you change the brush settings on Photoshop. So if I scroll down, there's also some different types of brushes that you can work with. So there's a few folders here like general brushes. And if I scroll down further, there's some options called dry media brushes. So you might see some different options on your versions of Photoshop, but these are like different shapes of different brushes. So let me choose this one right here. It's called a charcoal brush. Let me just increase the size, and you can see it's got this texture around the edges. So this is called a charcoal brush. So next, let's go through some of these tools right here on the side. So the first one is the move tool. So that simply just moves whatever is in the layer. The second one is the selection tool. So if you click and hold right here, there's a few options. So there's a rectangular selection tool or a circular selection tool, and you can also use a single line selection tool. So I usually don't use these two bottom options right here. I usually use the circular selection tool and the rectangular one. So let's choose the rectangular selection tool, and I'm just going to click and drag to select a part of this canvas. So right now this dashed line is what is selected, and what I can do is I can click and I can drag the selection over to select this part or this part right here. And if I want to cut what I've selected, I just need to choose the move tool and simply just move this over. So that just cut out what I selected, and I'm moving that over. And to deselect something, you can just press Ctrl D or Command D if you're on a Mac. So you can also use this tool right here called the lasso tool to select. So you can just, this is more of a freehand selection, so you can just drag, click and drag, and you can just draw a shape, and that creates a selection. And just like before, you can click and drag the move tool, and that chops off the image or chops off the content that you created, and now you have this shape right here. So let's deselect that as well. Next, it's the magic wand tool. So if you click and hold right here, there's two options. There's the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool. So let's choose the magic wand tool first. So what this does is it chooses a similar color to what you click on. So let's say I click on this blue color right here. It just selects everything else that is blue around it. Let's say you also want to select everything else that is blue around outside of the shape right here as well. So right now it's just selected the shape. Let's say you also want to select all of these blue colors right here as well. You just need to click off contagious off. So now if I click on this blue color, it selects everything else that is also blue. So let me just deselect that, and let's choose the paintbrush tool again. And I'm just going to choose a red color, and I'm just going to paint around these areas right here. Now watch what happens when I click on the magic wand tool again and I choose the red color this time. It only chooses the red color, so it doesn't choose the blue colors in here. So this is really helpful when you want to choose a specific color on some document or on an image and things like that. So now let's go to the quick selection tool. So to choose the quick selection tool, just click and hold and choose the quick selection tool right here. So this, it just kind of selects everything else that is a similar color around it. So it's kind of like the magic wand tool, except it works better with images. So let me go to this website right here. I've got this image of a lion, so let me just select this, and I'm just going to paste it in by pressing Ctrl V or Command V if you're on a Mac. And let's say I just want to select the nose of this lion. So I'm just going to zoom in by clicking on the zoom icon right here. Let's zoom into that lion, and let's choose the quick selection tool. And now it's going to choose anything that's the similar color around here. So I'm just going to click on the nose, click around here, and you can see just with 2 clicks, it recognized that this is a shape or a nose or something like that, and it just selected just the nose. And let's say I also want to select the mouth right here. I'm going to press and hold Shift, and I'm just going to click around it. So you need to click around it a few times for it to kind of recognize what is around this image. So it's not perfectly accurate, but it is just good enough, so it kind of selects all everything else that's a similar color around an image. So let's zoom out, and now we have a selection of the nose and the mouth. So when you have something selected, you can only work within that selection. So let's say I have this box right here selected, and I choose the paintbrush tool and I try painting outside of that box. You can see nothing comes up. That's because this section right here is selected. So I can only edit something inside this box, and you can see this hard edge within this box. And I can also do the same selection with the lasso tool. So I can draw like a wiggly shape, and I can choose the paintbrush tool again, and I can kind of paint that shape in. So that's how you work with selections on Photoshop. So next, let's work with the clone stamp tool. So first, let's get rid of these layers. So I'm just going to drag and drop them into the bin icon. And let's also just zoom this out a little bit. So choose the zoom icon and click on fit screen at the top right here. So that just fits the canvas nicely in the workspace. So I've got this image right here, and what I want to do is get rid of the volleyball net right here on this beach image. So let's right click and copy this image, and let's paste it into Photoshop by pressing Ctrl V or Command V if you're on a Mac. So let's zoom in. So we can actually make this disappear by using the clone stamp tool. So choose the clone stamp tool and make sure you have a general brush selected. So it should be just a circular brush, and the hardness is usually about 50%. So we're going to play around with the hardness and the size depending on what kind of image that we're going to use. So what you do is press Alt or Option if you're on a Mac and click on a part of the image. So maybe this part of the sand. And then I'm just going to click right here, and you can see what's happening. It's simply taking this part of this image and it's just highlighting it over here, and that kind of just makes the volleyball net just disappear. And you can just keep going, but when I get around here, it's going to start taking this little stand right here into this. So we don't want that. So what you can do is press Alt again, click around here somewhere, and then you can just get rid of it right here. And now you just need to keep going. So you can click on this part here and get rid of this shadow. And we just went over a little bit there, so let me just deselect that again. So what I can do right here is just choose the selection tool. So this is where the selection tool comes in handy, so I don't go over this edge. So we're only working with this part of this image right here. So let's choose the selection tool again, click on this part of this image, and we can just click and drag now. And if I go over this edge now, it's not going to paint here because of the selection. So now let's also do that right here. And we'll choose this part of this image here, and let's click and drag. So I'm just clicking random parts from here and just bringing it over around here. And you can see it's kind of inconsistent, so you have to kind of play around with it maybe here and bring it over here. So this does take a little bit of time sometimes, but it's quite fun to play around with this just to make things completely disappear from images. So let me just get it over here as well. So that looks good, and let's also take part of the image from here and put it in here as well. So what you can do now is you can decrease the hardness of the brush to 0%, so it kind of just fades in. So I've noticed I made a little mistake there because that person's kind of repeating. So that looks better now. So let's also get rid of this part right here of the net. So I think that looks good there. So next, let's go into the crop tool right here. So the crop tool just simply crops out the canvas. So when you click on this tool, you'll see these little controls on the edges of the canvas, and you can change the size of the canvas manually like this. So now you could make the canvas smaller from top to bottom or from side to side as well. And if you hit enter, then you have a different sized canvas. And now you can also change it another way. So if you go to image and click on canvas size, you can change it with different measurements as well. So you can choose the measurements right here to millimeters, and you can change all of these different sizes like the width and the height right here. And now let's work with some type. So you'll see this little T icon right here. So that's the type icon. So click on that, and I'm going to hide this layer as well. And I'm going to create a new layer. And there's two ways of typing. So you can just simply click, and you'll see a new layer pop up right here with a little T on it. So that's a layer icon. And we can just type in EQ Art and Design. Oops, so I spelled that incorrectly. There we go. So EQ Art and Design. So that's one way of typing it in. You can also type it in within a box. So let's say you're typing in a paragraph. So choose the type icon again, and I'm just going to put in click and drag. So this is the size of my paragraph, and just make it about that size there. And I'm going to lower the font size to, let's just say, about 14. Actually, it could be even more, maybe about 10. And I'm just going to paste in something that I copied from online, which is just what my channel is about. So there's my paragraph. And if I click out of it, you can see this nice looking paragraph right here. And let's say I want to edit the size of this paragraph, not the size of the text or the number of words, but the box size right here. So if I click on it again, choose the text selection tool and click on the text, and you can just move this box around, and that just kind of moves everything around it. So now if you don't see this paragraph panel right here, just go to Windows and click on Paragraph. So this is where you play around with the different alignments. So just click and drag, and you can choose a middle alignment or a left alignment. And you can also choose this. I forgot what this is called, but it just puts up all of these letters around the edge. So it kind of looks like a nice looking box. You can also align it to the middle, to the left, and you can also align it as a complete box as well. So sometimes, most of the time I use this box option right here as well. So let's just make it about that size there. If you click out of it, there's your paragraph. So let's say you want to edit the fonts and the font sizes. You can click on this, and I can just highlight this text right here, and I can choose the thickness of the font right here. So I can choose this to be bold, and I can also choose a different font if I wanted to, maybe something like this one right here to a different font. So now you can align all of these texts nicely around here, and you can choose layers panel again and choose the paragraph layer right here. So each of these text layers are just named after what you put in the text. So if you want to rename this, I can just rename this to paragraph, and I can just move this and align this nicely, because when you align it, it actually comes up with these little lines which are quite useful, and it just tells you whether it's aligned with this letter right at the top. You can also change the different alignments between each letter and each line in the paragraph. So go to Window and click on Character right here, and you'll see this little window pop up. So let's highlight the paragraph right here, and let's increase the line height, so the lines in between each of those texts. So that's this right here. There's this little icon with two A's on it. So if I just click and drag right here, you can see the line height increase. And if I go over the box, you can just click and drag the box, so you can see all of the text right here. And you can also just change this manually if you wanted to. So you can change it from 25 to maybe 10. So that looks good there. And if it's too huddled together, maybe you can change it to 15. So I think that looks good there. You can also change different length between each of these letters. So let's click out of this text. Let's highlight this Art and Design right here. And right here where there's a little V and a A, you can just click and drag, and that extends that text right here. And you can also change it manually with a number. So maybe I can put in 200, just like that. So that's how you work with text on Photoshop. So if you want to move all of these windows over, just click and drag them into this little box right here, and you can just nicely organize them. So if you want to get back to them, just click on it and the window will pop up. So now let's start working with some shapes. So there's this little square icon right here, and if you click and hold, you can draw different size shapes. So let's draw a rounded rectangle tool. So you just simply click and drag, and you can see it's a rectangle shape with the corners rounded. So you can't really see that right now. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So the corners are rounded. So if I choose this tool, and there'll be a few options right here in the properties panel. So if you don't see this properties panel, just click on Windows and click on properties. So make sure you have the rounded rectangle layer selected, because if you don't have this selected, you won't see this properties panel. So right here, you can increase the size of the radius of this rounded rectangle. So right now it's on 10, so I can just click and drag, and that increases the size of these rounded rectangles. So let's say I only want to increase the size of this corner right here and leave all of these as it is. Just click off this little clip icon so that the clip icon is off now. So I can just edit just this part of the rounded corner. So you can get some nice interesting looking shapes right here. And you can also change the size of this line. So we can make this thicker. That's really thick there. And you can also change where the line goes. So the line could go inwards. So it could be like inwards there's like a line right here. It could go inward or outward. Or could be like a different size. So it's like you can't really see the line right now, but it's like the main line that you drew. So it's either inside that line or outside of that line. So I usually don't really play around with that much. I usually just leave it on this option right here. And you can also change the color inside of it. So you can make it a red color, blue color. You can double click on this little gradient icon, and there's plenty of custom colors that you can choose. So that's how you create shapes on Photoshop. There's also other shapes right here, so you can create these customized shape tools. And there's these different shapes that you can play around with. So this comes with Photoshop. So there's arrows, there's a scissor icon, and you can download some different shapes from online, and you can play around with those shapes also. So those are the basics of Photoshop. So those are the different tools that is most commonly used, and these are the main panels that you need to work with, like layers, characters, and paragraphs. There'll be a part 2 to this video where I'll show you how to use all of these tools to actually create content like documents, posters, editing photos, and more. So if you want to see that video, make sure you stay subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when that video is uploaded. And if you have any questions or any type of requests, then you can comment down below and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. So I'll see you in that next video.